I used to have the thought process of, oh, if you're a housewife, like, you don't do anything. Like, your value is very much so small to none. My wife set it up for me that way. You get to choose what you want to do. Nobody is saying thank you or saying enough thank yous. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Feelings. I am Stephanie. I am the host here, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for coming back and listening to this podcast. In this podcast, we delve into the complexities of emotions, mental health, offering insight, support, and personal stories. I'm still getting used to saying that, so that's why I keep looking down, because I have my notes here, but what's up, everyone? How is your week going? How is your day going? How has life been going for you? I really want to know. Please comment in the comment section. Let me know. If you're listening, feel free to DM me. Feel free to go to my Instagram and, let me know how you're doing and what topics you want to possibly hear me talk about. As much as this is a platform for me to discuss my life and my stories, this is also a place where I want to educate and help people understand ways to live life better, and understand how emotions and mental health are so important these days. So with that being said, guys, I have a topic. When I tell you I have a topic that has been following me around. You ever think of something that you are oh man, I really feel this way about something, and that feeling kind of travels and it kind of evolves and it kind of changes, and you're like, dang, man, did I really think that this was gonna morph into what it's morphed into now? And that's what today's topic is about. So as you guys know, my wife and I work from home, and obviously I am here. I'm on social media with you guys. I am a podcaster now. I do full-time social media, so I do content creation with my wife, and then I also help her with things with her company. So that is my job, and well, when I explain that, or when people look at it on paper, they're like, oh, okay, you're a housewife. Basically you just stay at home and you do whatever you want to do. I have such a problem with that. I have such a huge issue. I think the problem is the word, right? Now, being a housewife, if you're a stay-at-home mom, obviously I don't qualify myself in the stay-at-home mom range. I do have a fur child that's nicely sitting here, but sitting right next to me if you guys are listening. But my problem is that whether you're a stay-at-home mom or you're a housewife, you're deemed kind of well, you don't do much. You don't have a career, quote unquote. You don't have basically anything going for yourself. You're just somebody that does something at home, and you don't really get paid for anything, or you don't get paid at all. That word, y'all, has really followed me. So, in no way possible am I saying that being a housewife or a stay-at-home mom is a bad thing. I think it's an amazing thing. And may I add, if you are a stay-at-home mom, good job. I just want to start off with that. Good job. You're doing an amazing job. You are keeping yourself above float every single day. And nobody is saying thank you or saying enough thank yous. And if they are, great. I love that for you. But then, you are also seen as just somebody's carpool lady. Sorry, guys, I'm messing with my mic because it's the first time using a mic on the podcast. But, you're seen as, a carpool lady. You've seen as a person that gives dinners, a person that cleans the house. You have all these jobs, and people are still you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're a housewife. Same thing for if you're a housewife, you maintain your house, you maintain your spouse. Because, your spouse that just went out the house 2 seconds ago, that almost didn't know where their keys were, don't know where their shoes are, don't know where half their clothes are, and have no idea, but they walked into the house sanely because you did everything. And this is my point, right? And this is where I'm already hyping myself up. So back to how we even got here. So I am a stay-at-home wife. I'm blessed to be that way. My wife set it up for me that way. As you guys know, I have anxiety, and in all the jobs that I've worked at before, they give me high stress because for me, I always need to be perfect. And for me, I don't sit in just a really like a regular role. You know, I like to excel. I like to be a manager or assistant manager or, you know, executive assistant or like all these things that I have on my roster. I mean, I used to stilt walk for 5 years. I mean, like, I don't do regular schmegular things, you know, like, I don't do regular jobs. I like to be above and beyond. So, with that being said, I also take on the stress of that company. So that company, you know, I'm stressed for them, but I'm not getting anything out of it. Does that make any sense? Like, I'm making somebody else's dreams come true, and they're not for me. So I'm carrying all this stress while they get to go home and sleep and rest and stuff like that. But I'm holding on to all these things. So it was just a high anxiety place for me. And I just couldn't. And Steph saw that. Steph saw the fact that I could not deal with the anxiety of just always being somebody's reach, which again, that's my fault. I should have set boundaries. I should have learned a lot of things through the line. But anyways, so she's like, you know what? Let's find something that you can do, that you enjoy doing, and that's for you. You put all this energy into everything else. Let's start putting it towards things for you. So hence StephSquaredtv, hence Excuse My Feelings, and this is where we are now. With that, right, I work from home. I'm a stay-at-home wife. And I do have the pleasure and the blessing of figuring out my life as I choose, right? Some of us don't have that ability. Some of us don't have the ability to go, oh, well, you know, I'm going to take this week off and figure out what I want to do with my life. Or I'm going to take a few months off. I'm going to take a year off, figure out what I want to do with my life, and then go from there. Some of us don't have that luxury. And I completely understand that. But I do. So when I do speak to people about, you know, what I do, I kind of get looked at kind of like, well, you know, they kind of like brush past me and then go to my wife and ask her, you know, and talk about all her accolades and all the amazing stuff. And I look and I'm like, was I not interesting enough for you? Like, you know, it's so frowned upon to hear the word housewife. And this is why I was having so many issues with it and coming down to this episode, because when I think of housewife, and this was before I did a lot of research and just, and not really research like on the computer, but like internal research through therapy and talking to my therapist, talking to my wife, talking out loud about the topic. I really had an issue with the word housewife. And for me, talking about being a housewife or hearing people talk about being a housewife, I used to have the thought process of, oh, if you're a housewife, like you don't do anything. Like your value is very much so small to none. And I used to be like, I don't want to be a housewife, or I don't want to be considered like a housewife. I also do all these things. Like I'm over here listening. Like, I'm trying to prove it to myself that I am not a housewife. And again, there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. I really want to preface this whole topic and this whole episode on saying there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. If you were a housewife, good job, because we do a lot of stuff that nobody really knows about, which I'll get into. But good job, because being a housewife is a handful. This is a job that, again, just like a stay-at-home mom, you don't get paid for. But yet, there's a lot of stuff that happens because of you. So, good job. But yeah, I was having a really big issue with the word housewife. And I'm like, bro, like, these people really want to see me fail. They're just out here talking about, I'm a housewife. You know, when I would meet people or, like, certain friends, and I'm like, you really think that's it? Like, I'm a well-educated woman. I have a great record of just the things that I have I wouldn't say accomplished, but, you know, like, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, I've done stuff. You get what I'm saying? Like, I've done, and you say that I'm just a housewife? Like, damn, that's a lot. to me, it hurt my soul. Like, I'm like, no, man, like, I'm more than just a housewife. I have my own brand. Like, I'm part of StephSquaredtv. I help my wife, and, I do all these things. And I'm sitting here, when I tell you, every time somebody asked me what I would do, y'all, I would be in there like, I'm ready. I got my cards. Like, you're not about to devalue me. Until it came to recently. And I was talking to someone, and they're like, oh, well, you're just a housewife. And I was like, that's the straw that, like, really just hit the camel in the, or, whatever the American expression is, but it hit me. Like, it hit me so hard. And I was like, why is this bothering me so bad? Like, what is the issue? So I took it to my therapist. I was like, well, let me talk to the human being that has sorted out my whole mental space. Let's talk about it. Let's sit here and think about, why this affects me in such a manner. And for me, I didn't realize that stuff came from, like, deep in the back of me and my issues as far as, like, devaluing myself. Like, I didn't have confidence. So, talking with my therapist, I'm like, yo, like, why is it that I have such problems with people thinking that I'm just a housewife? And she's like, why wouldn't you want to be a housewife? She's like, I want to be a housewife. I want to be a housewife. I would love to be a housewife. Please and for me, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, a housewife? What? Like, you're a therapist, you're a doctor. Like, this is great. And she's like, no, but a housewife. Like, that's what sometimes women strive to be. They want to be a housewife. They want to be taken care of by their significant other to where, they just maintain the home. And that's the last thing that's the only thing that they have to think about. Make sure that their significant other is good. Their home is good. We good. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, oh, so we want to be a housewife now. Like, this is a good thing. Kind of like when I was younger and, like, people were like, oh, if you have a gap in between your legs, that's not cool. Now all of a sudden the gap is back. I'm thinking this whole time, housewife is so bad. Like, your value is shit. You are nothing. You have nothing going for yourself. Forget it. And I'm turning around talking to my therapist. She's like, why wouldn't you want to be that? Why wouldn't you want to be a housewife to somebody who is like, you need to worry about your mental health first, think about that, and then go figure out what you want to do with your life. Why wouldn't you want that? And I was like, I have a blessing and I have no idea that it's staring right in my face. Like, what? You're telling me that this whole time I'm complaining about something that so many people want, and I'm like literally staring at this blessing and going, I don't think I want it. I don't want it. I don't want it at all. And it took me by surprise. I know how to say surprise correctly, but I just wanted to say surprise. But it took me for a shock. I was like, this whole time I'm thinking in my mind, people think I'm worthless. No, certain people are jealous. And there's some people, like, for example, my friend Eddie, who you've either already seen on my podcast or you will be seeing. And he's like, no, I love that for you. And I'm like, you do? Like, it's so crazy. I'm so worried about all these other people who I come across once in a while to talk to, and they're like, whatever, you're just a housewife. And they mean nothing because probably they're just jealous that they wish that, their significant other would retire them, and let them be a housewife. But then you have people, friends, good friends, they're like, no, hooray for you. Like, kudos. You're a housewife. Like, you made something of yourself. I don't know if it's being too hard on myself. But again, like my therapist said, confidence. I definitely think it's a confidence thing. So, in speaking with my therapist, she was just like, you need to find confidence in yourself. Like, she was like, if today you, or as of today, do you trust yourself to make decisions? And I was like, absolutely. My decisions in life are what got me here. Like, the decisions that I have made throughout my whole life have literally gotten me to the position that I am now. And I'm very confident in that. She's like, so you have confidence. Now we're here in this section of me trying to understand why housewife bothers me and why it really just irks my nerves. But then I took it one step further, right? And I was like, let me talk to my wife about it. Because now I'm not a housewife to myself. I'm a housewife to my wife. So I'm talking to her and I'm like, she's like, how was your therapy session? And I was like, oh, it was good. We were talking about me being a housewife and how I don't like that. I don't think I'm a housewife. She goes, well, what do you think you do? And at first I was like, what do you mean? Like, you and I are here. We're in the same house. We spend every waking moment together. What do you mean you don't know what I do? Like, what? I do a lot. And I'm like, she's like, okay, so what do you do? So I named everything. She started breaking it down, right? She was like, okay, well, you said that you're a content creator. You haven't created content for StephSquaredtv. So that's null and void. She's like, you can't call yourself a podcaster because you haven't released a video yet. So you're not a podcaster. And she was like, well, you help me with my businesses. And that's one thing. So you could do that. You could say that you do that. She's like, but other than that, what do you do? And I was like, not you putting me in check. Like, okay. Right. So I'm a housewife that helps her wife with her businesses. She's like, and this is where the thought process of it, she was like, you get to choose what you want to do. And right now you're choosing to stay stagnant. And she's like, you want to be able to say that you do all these things, but you're not doing anything. You're, again, stagnant. And I was like, okay, so I need to make a large change in my life. I need to make a full 180 because I'm stuck again. And I forgot what month we were in, but I'm again stagnant in my year that I was like, no, I want to get these things done. I want to make changes in my life. And I was like, how did I become stagnant again? It's like, those charts where it's like, where you see somebody's, like direction, like how well the sales are doing or whatever. And I'm like, I did well, and then dropped. And I'm in this little U at the bottom of a pool. And I'm just sitting there and this like slow pace, whatever. And I'm just sitting at the bottom. And she's like, do you want to do that? Is that like what you just want to stay stagnant? And I was like, no, I don't want to stay stagnant. She's like, all right, so you need to do some changes. You need to reevaluate what your changes are and get going. She's like, you're not going to go anywhere if you just stay stagnant. You're just going to sit for the rest of however long until you make some choices to change. And she's like I said, you can't do all these things or call yourself all these things and people take you seriously when you're not producing, you're not actually doing something. Ladies and gents, I changed. Because you're not going to say things to me 12 times and expect me not to change anymore. I'm sorry. I have that person that you could talk to infinitely and be like, hey, you're not changing. And I legit was that person. Hey, you're not changing. And I'm like, whatever. Like, I mean, I'll get a slump. A slump. Like, when I tell you a slump, like, that's where I was at. So I was like, all right, well, I have to make some changes. She's like, you need to make some changes now, drastic ones. If not, you're going to think this is okay. And we're going to have to like start looking at different things for you to do because you can't sit in this slump. And the reason why my wife says this, and in no means possible is this in any degrading or like, this is nowhere like, oh, you're like, you need to figure your stuff out because I can't keep dragging you. It's the fact that my wife knows immediately, if you see me going down this way, because she's seen me do it before, if you see me going down this way, I'm headed for a good little bit of a depression. Not a little bit, a good depression. I'm headed that route. And she was like, no, you need to do something because you right now, where you're headed is just, it's not good for you. We already know. I've already seen it. I've already explained to her what it looks like. And it's not pretty. So she's like, no, we're not going to sit. We're just not. It's like incapable of me seeing you do this and going, this is a great idea. So I switched it up. I changed because, like I said, it wasn't working. With everything that was going on, right? Having this conversation with my therapist, having this conversation with my wife, I'm like, okay, so, I have one end where housewife is still is like, damn, like you made it. And then you have the other spectrum that's like, housewife, you're doing nothing with your life, right? This is still in my head. This is where I'm going with. I want to say like a day or two writing points that I wanted to hit with this podcast. When I tell you I'm typing, I'm like getting everything out. I'm like, people think I'm worthless. People think housewives are worthless, blah, blah. And I'm going deep, which I'll read you some things that I had here. Conversations like this with like the therapist, with my wife, with my friends, because now we got to fast forward to a little bit after, because I didn't record this video right away. I was recording other things. Then I have conversations with my friends who now they're looking at me and going, I love this for you. Like, this is great. You're a housewife. Like, if only it was so easy to come by. Now I have people ask me, like, how did you get into a relationship with your wife? Like, how are you at this stage in your life with your wife? And it just humbled, 1,000% humbled. But it now changed my perspective on this episode. Because like I said, at first I was like, I'm about to go in on everyone who, and let go, right, of everything that I feel regarding people making me feel small, right? Because I don't like that. Nobody should make anybody else feel small. Like, no matter what you are doing, whether with your life or not doing with your life, as long as you are healthy, mind, body, and soul, I don't care what you do. If you decide to paint the Eiffel Tower for 72 days straight just because it made your heart happy, go for it. That's how I see it. I was like ready. I was so ready to read this and be like, y'all about to, not obviously you guys, but like, I'm about to get off my chest what I want to tell to every person that looks at me. And when I introduce myself and they tell me, because when you're having a conversation with somebody, oh, what do you do? And you tell them, so-and-so. Some people get it, because I'm not going to take away from the people that get it, right? When I say, I do content creation, especially now, because like I said, changes were made and we're back on track with life. Let's just put it like that. So, when I do speak to people and I'm like, I'm a content creator, I make podcasts, or I have a podcast, excuse me. And, I talk to them about social media. I talk to them about, how to, like, kind of like in passing, like if you're with another person that does content creation and you talk to them and they're like, oh, how do you do this? Or, oh, I learned this, or, conversations. There are people that get it, right? Because you'll have the handful of people that are like, oh, that's amazing. I've always wanted to do social media, or, oh man, like, how do you feel about this changes on Instagram? Or like, man, like I'm really good at TikTok, but I'm really bad at Instagram. Like, those kinds of conversations with those people. And I absolutely love those. Those are my favorite. Those are my people, because even though we may not be in the same space or level as far as followers or content making or whatever, we may not be in the same niche, space, followers, whatever, but they get you, because there's people out in the world who are like, oh, content creation is not a job. Fine. But again, I'm not going to take away from the people that when I do say what I do, they're like, oh, that's amazing. Good job. Like, great job. So those people I love. So thank you. But then again, like, you have the people who are like, whatever, like, this girl's just a housewife. So I went back and I read my notes, and y'all, I was angry. You could tell I was angry. You could tell I was like PO'd at the fact that I feel degraded every time I speak to somebody who's asking me, hey, what do you do? And it has nothing to do with the fact that my wife is an amazing entrepreneur, an amazing person at building businesses and creating, these amazing opportunities for other people, from, creating her mentorship, everything else that she's done. Honestly, because if I sit here all day, I mean, I don't think there's enough hours and enough space on this SD camera for me to tell you what she does. So, standing next to her, still, again, we're working on my confidence, but standing next to her and her speaking about all of her accolades, I'm like, that's awesome. That's really cool. And I don't take away from that. I'm like, she's doing what she's doing now. I'm doing what I'm doing. We're Gucci. Reading back, which again, like I said, I'm going to read you guys my notes. I was very angry about this. I was very angry about just feeling small. And I think the biggest part of the anger that comes from just feeling small is I don't like feeling small. I don't like feeling worthless. I don't like feeling my value decrease in somebody else's eyes. And not saying that they need to value me or they need to be in awe with me, but it's kind of like talking to somebody and you can slowly see the lights turn off because now they no longer interested in what you're saying mid-conversation. That's how it feels. So I'm going to read to you guys a few of my notes. And so you can see the headspace that I was in. And then I'm going to talk to you guys how I feel currently. So you guys can kind of see, the difference and why it's so important to look deep when you feel so heavily about something. Because there's not just the reason of, I feel this way. No. There's like 30,000 other reasons, I assure you. So just think of that. Because when we feel so deeply about something, like I felt about this, I assure you that there's going to be other lessons, one, that are taught, two, that the other thing that is missing is deep down inside, whether that's trauma, which for me, one of my biggest traumas that comes from being told the word housewife is also my mom. My mom was a housewife, and she was a stay-at-home mom until my family was not able to do that. And I have this whole issue, which that's another episode coming, but I have a whole issue of not wanting to be my mother. So see, just from the word, from you calling somebody a housewife to triggering a trauma that you had no idea was there. You see? Like, it's way bigger than just feeling a way about something. There's something deeper that you could possibly be missing, right? So anywho, okay, this is exactly where you can see I'm about to let off, right? Now this is my issue. Why is it that because my success does not equate to my wife's success, am I deemed lesser and placed in the box of housewife, quotation marks? Now, in large letters. With that being said, there is nothing wrong with being a housewife, but this bothers me. My career and my life path is equally as important. Just like she is clapped for being an entrepreneur, I should get the same energy. Now, I'm not the only one that has spoken about this. There's lots of women on TikTok and IG that have talked about this on their platform. Hell, I've even talked about it on my IG story plenty of times. And I think I finally found a great response to this. And I still feel like this is a great response to the women, to the people who are on these platforms and get comments. Like, for example, on our TikTok, we get comments where they're like, oh, Stephanie, you need to get a job. You need to stop bothering your wife. You're a leech, all these things. I love it. Comment more, please. Please do. Comment more because you're driving engagement. We appreciate you. But I think that this still, for me, I still absolutely love this quote. Only you have what you're going to bring. Literally. Nobody has it. No one. So it's kind of a beautiful strength and confidence that comes when you realize that you're the only one that got what you got. Alicia Keys. First of all, I love me some Alicia Keys. But two, she's so correct. Like, you are the only you. You're one. Doesn't matter anybody else. You bring to the table what you have. We are all different. And in some things, we are all the same. But does not mean that what you bring to the table is not enough. Because it is. It is enough for your table. And it is enough for the person who is going to be at your table, that wants to be at your table. So you're the only one that has that. You are so special that you can bring what you can bring to the table, and no one can judge that. That's the important part of that quote. And so I continue. Only I know what I bring to the table. Only you know what you bring to the table, the relationship, the business, so on and so forth. So you are the only person that you know that can bring this to the table. Not only to the table, but to the relationship, to the business, so on and so forth. If you want to call me a housewife, sure. But just know that this housewife has a career. And even a housewife that you think sits and gets massages and mani-pedis every day, I assure you deserves it, because the successful spouse that looks like they got it together just asked their wife for help with something. I am my wife's business partner, secretary, employee, photographer, videographer, cleaner, chef, sometimes, heavy on the sometimes, laundress, and I mean the list continues. And if you think my list is long, think about the women that also have children. That list goes on for days. By no means am I saying that I hate anything that I do for my wife, nor do I hate what my wife does. I appreciate it more each day, but damn, let's get some weight on the meaning of being a wife. I used to hate when people would ask what my wife and I do for a living, and I would say, oh, I'm just a content creator, and they would quickly turn their heads back to my wife and ask her 3,000 questions about her and her businesses. Reading this to you, I realize there's some things we're missing. Being a wife in totality is a hard job. Being in a relationship is a hard job. Being yourself is a hard job. But I think the biggest part of this in understanding the concept of feelings, right, is that you can tell, one, that I'm extremely angry, I'm pissed off. But two, it's crazy how much I love fighting for myself in this. And it's not for me to go, oh, good job, Stephanie, for, letting out your feelings on a piece of paper and then coming on here and also, saying your feelings. For me, I think the bigger part of this is that when I figured out something was bothering me, I didn't go, it's going to bother me, whatever, and taking it out on the people who I love. My friends, my wife, people who I just met. Because God forbid, let's say, for example, a subscriber comes up to me and goes, I'm a housewife too, like you. And I go, I'm not a housewife. First of all, I've disrespected the person that I was speaking to. 1. 2, I just bit their head off for them just seemingly saying something like, I'm a housewife too, and feeling proud about it. I did something for them that I should be going, yeah, like, I am a housewife, and, I do have a career that I'm working on, but it by no means should I be taking out my issues on somebody else. That's just not fair. It's nowhere near fair. And that's the bigger point, I think, of all of this, because I was really trying to find a topic, or not a topic, but a name for this episode. And obviously how you see it on the video, I figured it out here, is that when you have all these emotions, the biggest thing about emotions and the biggest things about feelings is that we need to learn how to process them immensely well, because you never know when something that you do can affect someone else. So, for instance, here is the whole situation, obviously, about being a housewife and why it impacted me so much and why I wanted to talk about it. And at first I was going to, be like, this episode is going to be why I'm not a housewife. But honestly, that's not the issue. That's not the problem. What I did was that, hopefully you guys don't hear the thunder in the background. It's raining in Florida currently, and literally all this week has been rainy. It's like anytime after 3, it's rainy. Anywho. This episode is it's not just about me talking about me being a housewife, blah, blah, blah. No, it's about me telling you guys, look at what I did. I felt a way about something. I felt so strongly about it that instead of letting it take on to me and being like, ugh, I'm so frustrated with this. I hate this about myself. I'm just going to live with it and let it just rot in me. No, I took upon myself and I was like, no, I need to figure out why the hell this bothers me so much, which opened the door of understanding, and this is the biggest part about being able to vocalize your feelings, because, it's one thing to feel, but can you process your feelings? That's the biggest thing. That's the purpose of this episode. That's the title of this episode, processing your feelings so that way you don't hurt somebody else. Like I said, I know that I had an issue with being called a housewife, but nowhere is it okay for me to attack another human being because they triggered something that I didn't process. It's my job to process things. It's my job to process my feelings and then take it to the table of this is where I'm bothered. Take it to the table of therapy or communicating with anyone, honestly. You could write it down. Do what I did. Write everything down of how you're feeling. Take a few days. Even write it in your calendar. I'm going to write it on Friday. I'm going to come back to it on Tuesday. See how I feel. Do I still feel as intensely? Because me reading these words now, I'm like, yeah, Steph, I get what you're saying. And you are correct. The word housewife is still kind of frowned upon. But then you have other people that are bringing that word up and going, no, that's dope. was going to say fucking dope. But it's dope, you know? That is an achievement. Or at least I feel like. Because you don't have to do anything. Let's be clear. I feel like going to the table of feelings, right? And putting them on there and going, you know, this is how I feel. Going to my therapist, then going to my wife and sitting on it. You know, sitting on it, rereading what I wrote, what the script was for this episode and going, damn girl, like you really were going in, you know, and there's still other things which, you know, I'll continue reading in just a moment. I think my biggest part and my biggest point of all of this is that make sure that when you feel so hard about something, look at it in all the aspects, because you may not realize that whatever that may be, because mine was just the housewife that triggered me. Something else could be triggering you that you have no idea. You have no idea. Why do you feel so passionately about somebody leaving their clothes on the side of their bed? Why do you feel so passionately about somebody leaving dishes in the sink? Why do you feel so passionately about getting to work on time every day and not missing it? Why do you feel so passionately about these things, whether they be good or bad? And make sure that we're checking those. Because for me, I can only say that checking in for this specific feeling made a world of a difference, because I learned a lot of things. And thankfully, I do have my little therapy village. You know, I have my wife, I have my therapist, I have my friends that I could talk to them about this. I'm very thankful that I set it up for myself to succeed in this emotional journey. Would it be emotional journey? I would say more so in this search of understanding why this was so triggering. Content creator is not your usual career, but it sure is one. So as much as I have to check myself for not having faith and confidence in my career path and needing to put some passion when I say what I do for a living, but I also have to check those who think that just because my career doesn't look like my wife's does not mean I'm just a housewife. Honestly, what's wrong with being a housewife? Nothing at all. But we sometimes feel offended when we're called a housewife, especially when we think that it's not the box that we fit in. We have made the word so demeaning to women, sadly. I've legit been in the room when one woman said to another woman, "Oh, you don't work." Oh, this is good. Just wait. I've been in the room when one woman said to the other woman, "Oh, you don't work and your partner takes care of you? Wow, so you don't want to have a career? Don't you want your own money?" This is a pause for a dramatic effect. The sound didn't cut out, I assure you, in this podcast. But that was definitely a pause for a dramatic effect. Yes, I was definitely in the room for that. And yes, it was definitely an awkward moment for the two individuals that were speaking to each other. At that moment, I sided with one person. I sided with the person that was talking about their career and wanting to have their own individual money. Now, I think to myself, I do want to have my own things, but I rather have my things with my wife. Still having incoming money for myself, so even though I brought my own money in from whatever brand deal for myself, it's for my household. There's nothing wrong with not bringing in money, but bringing in value. So even though my wife makes more money than I do, what I do bring to the table is you never have to worry about your own laundry. You never have to worry about your house if it's tended to. You never have to worry about when you are here carrying on business meetings that no one is untaken care of. You get what I'm saying? Like when there's somebody here, when she's having large meetings here at home and everyone is taken care of. She doesn't have to worry about hiring a whole staff and service. Nope. When my wife needs a photographer or a videographer because she doesn't have one available at the time, I become that. My wife never has to think, damn, I don't have this. No, you do. Even if I have to stay up until midnight to figure it out, I will figure it out. My wife asks me sometimes, "Hey, can you organize this for me?" Absolutely. I may not bring buckets of money yet, but what I do bring are quality traits that I do have that I can provide for her. And if I don't know how to do it, guess what? I will be learning it. I will be learning how to do it for her. That is what I bring to the table. That's where I think about that now, as far as that conversation with those two and how it went down. I'm like, yeah, there's something bigger. There's always something bigger to a relationship. Because, like, for example, I don't cook. I can cook. If I was alone in my life, I could survive. I know how to cook enough to get me through my life. Fine. Now, let's start with that now. Because before, I know I've served like raw chicken, 100%. And I think I'd be living off of tacos, because that's really, like, I could really make breakfast, and tacos are my thing. Like, I could totally make those any day, all day. But anyways, so I was in that room for that conversation. And still to this day, I'm like, it just doesn't sit right. It don't really sit right. Anywho, what if that was her goal? What if being in the workforce messes with her mental health? What if she can't work in order to successfully bear children, and that's what she really wants? What if her partner wants her to rest because she's been working since she was a kid? I mean, did anyone think of that? And that's the most important thing, right, too, that I really wanted to talk about, is that a lot of people forget as well, like, when you're a housewife, didn't mean that you became a housewife overnight. Like I said, my story is my wife wants me to take care of my mental health so much that she's like, no, you need to choose your own career path and, like, go that way where you are confident and comfortable and able to keep your stuff in line and not have to worry about anybody else. That's mine. I also was told the story about a woman who left her job so she could bear children, so she can have kids, so she can focus on having kids for her family. I have vertigo, right? And my vertigo is triggered from anxiety. When I was working for someone, I told my boss that I had vertigo. I brought her the paperwork. And I want to say, like, a few months later, I told her I needed to leave work because I felt like my vertigo was going to start. And it was going to. She left. She was like, okay, like, give me a second. So she left. She went to talk to her boss. I guess she went to talk to HR, whatever. It felt very awkward, very cold. And then she came back to me and she was like, I just had to make sure that I could let you go. One, because you don't have enough time, like, you don't have time off to, like, leave. And then two, if it's okay for me to let you go because you said that you have vertigo and I need to make sure that, like, somebody comes and picks you up. My man, you could have said that first, not anything to do with time. Because it was very, like, you ever feel like when you're talking to somebody it's, like, super cold? You're like, the fuck? Why are you so, like, distancy? I didn't care for it. But anyways, that was that situation. So I always think about those things too. It's like, you like, some women are, like, I mean, there's women who on their third or fourth child, and guess what? It's a lot cheaper to take care of your kids at home than to put them in any kind of childcare services. It's a lot cheaper. A lot. Like 100% cheaper. I have lots of friends that have kids, and it's a lot cheaper to keep your kids at home, you know, the beginning years of their lives, until that they can go to, like, public school or, like, you know, whatever school activity thing that they can go into. There's that. You know? So there's lots of reasons why women become stay-at-home moms or just housewives in general. Because, I mean, there's, like, for me, I started working when I was a kid. Like, a young kid. I've been an adult for majority of my life. So for me, I'm like, well, you know, somebody who doesn't know my story, they're just like, oh, she's a housewife, like, you know, whatever. I have a lot of reasons why my wife was like, I got this. You do what you need to do to, one, be happy, one, to keep your mental health. I mean, one, be happy, two, make sure your mental health is right, but still, you know, still do great things, still create a career for you. So don't always look at people and go, oh, wow, okay. Like, trust me, there's some stories that you have no idea And that's why I always say, like, especially talking to people, you gotta be very, very careful, with, I wouldn't say labels, because that's not what we're saying, but just understand that certain words will definitely can trigger people if you have no clue. So next time you call somebody a housewife, don't, or put some good juju on your words, because some people take, like for me, I took it the wrong way for a while there. So that's my script, right? If I would have stuck to my script, I mean, it's a good script. It's a good, baseline of what I wanted to talk about, the important points that I wanted to say, but do I feel that way? No. Anymore right now, as of currently. I don't feel that way. I'm proud of being a housewife. I'm proud of being a content creator. I'm proud of being a podcaster. I'm proud of the achievements that I've done. And I'm extremely, extremely blessed to have a partner who is allowing me to see my dreams come true and believing in me enough to be able to put these dreams forward. So I know that I'm blessed. I know that I am extremely lucky to be in the position that I am in, to have a partner that's like, nah, do what you need to do. Figure it out. I got you. You can fall back on me if you need anything, but I'm here. I could have had a partner that didn't do that. I mean, a young me would be very proud of where I'm at now. But all of this to be said, that this episode is not focused on stupid people and what they say to you. This episode is about making sure that we're checking in on those strong feelings that we feel every once in a while. And we're like, why does this bother me so much? Check it. Make sure you're looking at it, because when I tell you this experience of really riding the wave of trying to figure out why this bothered me so much, it really has put me in the place of like, all right, call me a housewife. I'm confident. I know what I bring to the table. I don't need you or anyone else to down my shine, because I know what I do. I know I've proved it. I've learned from it. I have taken on things with a new perspective, and we're going to keep going that way. So it is what it is. To me, I'm like, it is what it is. You can call me a housewife. You can call me a person who has no goals. You can call me whatever you want. But I am secure because I have people that have secured me, and I've secured myself. The biggest part of it is securing myself. So I really hope that you guys got something out of this episode, whether it's, confidence in the word housewife, if you are a housewife, if you're a stay-at-home mom, the confidence of knowing, like, listen, you do that every day. You do that. You are great. And then, if you also got the perspective of checking your feelings, because that's the biggest part, checking your feelings, checking every feeling. It's kind of like, if you're a woman, going to the doctor and checking yourself, your womanly self, getting your annuals done. And then, anybody else is just checking with a doctor and making sure, like, you're good. Because I just never want to be in a place for myself where I have a feeling, and that because I feel so strongly about it, I am not able to control that feeling, and I let it out on somebody else. That is my biggest fear, and especially because I want to have kids, and I don't want to be carrying words that trigger me onto my kids and me lashing out on them. Y'all, that's my biggest fear. Those are one of my biggest fears. I'm like, I gotta check a lot of these things before I bring somebody into this world, and I go, I didn't know that I went off on you because of something that your grandmother triggered me for, or your grandfather, triggered me for, or things that in high school triggered. You get what I'm saying? Like, I just want to make sure that I'm learning to process my emotions as best as possible, so that I don't have issues that fall out, like overpour into other things because I didn't check my emotions. That's how I feel on that one. I'm going to close out with some good words, because that's the most important part is, some feel good words, just something something to make you warm and cozy. Because for me, I love going on Instagram and finding some warm and cozy quotes, like, something that makes me feel good when they're like, oh my God, your month of August is going to be the best month of life, or, like whatever. I love those. So if you love those, this is my quote for you. Choose every day to forgive yourself. You are human, flawed, and most of all, worthy of love. Those are my words to you. Those are my, here you go, some warm and cozy and comfy clothes and just a good tea by the fire. Those, you know what I'm saying? That I want you to feel warm on the inside when you come here and when you watch me and when you listen to me. For the people who are listening, when you're here, we are comfy cozy. We're here to be ourselves and be warm and be comfortable. That's what we bring here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I did not expect to go down this rabbit hole of like, just, I don't know. Like when your brain explodes, that's what I felt like I did today. So with lots of love and with all the virtual hugs I can give you, I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.